and Business Council. More information at bricker.com/southeast.
Dresden, Ohio plays host to our game of the week as Philo and Tri-Valley will battle it out. Will the Scotties shut down the Storm, or will the Electrics outpower Tri-Valley? We'll have this game and so much more coming up next, so get ready because Gridiron Glory starts right now. October is finally here, which means it's time to bring back the flannels, the bonfires, and the pumpkin spice lattes. But most importantly, it's time to bring out more fall football. Although the weather is getting cold, teams are getting red hot, and as the leaves are changing, let's take a look at how the AP polls changed going into this week's games. We start in Division 2 as Teays Valley makes their debut in this year's rankings. We'll be seeing them for the first time this season later on in the show. After a cancellation last week, Granville remains in the top 5 of Division 3. We'll see if the Blue Aces enjoyed their rest, or they came out rusty against Bishop Watterson in just a few minutes. Next up is Division 4, where Bloom Carroll stays at that second spot. The Bulldogs' defense has been dominant since entering conference play. Finally, Waverly climbs up to the rankings at number 6. The Tigers' offense has been clicking all season long. Moving to Division 5, where Ironton stays at number 4. Ironton has been dominant since a loss to Division 1 foe, Moeller. Ridgewood and Piketon are holding strong in the rankings. Ridgewood still has games against Indian Valley and Garaway that will show just how strong the Generals are this season. Piketon, meanwhile, is coming off their signature victory of the season with a 23-point win over Paint Valley. Finally, Bel Air comes in at number 12. They have a huge contest against St. Clairsville at noon on Saturday. Finally, let's take a look at Division 6 and 7. Fort Fry is still the only team from Southeast Ohio ranked in Division 6. The Cadets remain at number 2 after a big-time victory over Trimble in last Friday's game of the week. In Division 7, Newark Catholic is the team to beat. The Green Wave are also ranked second in the state for their division. Newark Catholic is followed by Shadyside and Byrne Union, who are both right on their heels at 5th and 6th respectively. Finally, Portsmouth Notre Dame stays in the rankings after their first loss of the season. They will be heading west come playoff time in Region 28. Starting off the show, we bring on Zach Paquette, who went to South Gallia to see if Trimble could bounce back.
Yeah, Nick, back-to-back losses for Trimble heading into this one, and it was a late addition to the schedule, and the Tomcats were hoping to make the most of it. The Trimble Tomcats made the trip to Crown City to take on the South Gallia Rebels, looking to get back into the win column. In the first Trimble drive, second offensive play from scrimmage, Tabor Lackey takes the handoff, or he'll keep it, go up the far sideline, untouched, 40 yards for the score, and it will be 7-0 Trimble, and he'll look and celebrate with his man Austin Weiser. Look at that, look at those hops right there. And on their very next drive, it's Bryce Downs' turn. He'll take the handoff and go up the far sideline, 36 yards for the score, 14-0 Tomcats still in the first quarter. And on the very first play of the second quarter, Tabor Lackey, he'll roll out to his left and find his man Blake Guffey wide open for the 15-yard score, 21-0 Tomcats. And Nick, the scoring wouldn't stop there. A few drives later, Lackey, he'll look and throw it to the outside, find his man Will Freeborn. He'll make a guy miss. It'll be 33-0 Trimble at that point, and the score fest would be capped off by this 50-yard touchdown run by Bryce Downs. He'll cut it up the field, up the far sideline, make a guy miss, and it would be 40-0 Trimble at that point as they'd go on to win 40-0.
And now, Zach, last week Trimble defense gave up 45 points to Fort Fry. How's their defense bounce back this week?
Yeah, Nick, the Tomcats came out to make a statement, and they did just that right from the start. The defense came out and played aggressive per usual and were in the South Gallia backfield all night. They limited the Rebels to 4 yards passing on the night and 48 yards of total offense. They refused to give up any big plays, and as a result, they only gave up 3 first downs the whole game.
That Tomcat defense returned in dominant fashion Friday night. Who were some of the standout players for the Tomcats on defense?
Nick, it seemed like on every play defensively, Tabor Lackey was in the backfield. He was either throwing players to the ground, quite literally, or he was bringing down the ball carriers to the ground for negative gains. The guy was all over the place.
Zach, after this performance, do you think the Tomcats are finding the rhythm before the playoffs?
Yeah, I would say so, Nick. Trimble's defense has always been the backbone of this team, and after some tough results the last few weeks, this win puts them back on track defensively for the season. Anytime you can shut out a conference opponent, it's a huge deal. And with just a few weeks left in the regular season, they'll have plenty of time to fine-tune a few things before the games really matter for them.
Yeah, it sounds like this game could be a spark that the Tomcats have been needed all season long. Thanks for the great work, Zach. Sometimes the show goes by fast. Well, if you need to rewatch, we have you covered. Our YouTube has all of our episodes for your viewing pleasure. If you want more contact beyond the show, follow our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok for game recaps, pictures, and more. Be sure to follow our Instagram for Wallpaper Wednesdays for your chance to rock your school on your phone's lock screen. We've got that and even more big things coming your way, including something for our student sections. More on that later on in the show. Now we head over to Racine, where reporter Ethan Sargent was on the scene for Waterford at Southern while it went down tonight.
Nick, it's set up to be a hard-fought battle between 2 TVC Hocking foes, but this one ended up being a foregone conclusion. It was Military Appreciation Day in Racine for this battle of 3 and 2 squads. The Wildcats got the party started early on as Holden Daly powered it in, 6-0 Wildcats early on. Daly makes it 2 touchdowns on the night with this one from 41 yards out. Check out this stiff arm, that's a mean one. The missed extra point afterwards keeps it at 12-0. The defense also wanted in on the fun as they made up for those missed PATs with a safety to make it 14-0 Wildcats. It would go from bad to worse for the Tornadoes as their offense continued to sputter. The rout was on in the second quarter as Jacob Pantelidis takes a Wildcat snap to the crib to extend the lead to 27. Then, after a pick by the D, Jacob Huffman makes a candidate for catch of the year as he somehow corrals this ball from between his legs, taking football to a whole new level there as Waterford would roll into the breakup 41-7. Final score, 55-0 Wildcats.
Wow, the Wildcats sure turned it up today. Who were the stars of the show?
Nick, the stars for the Wildcats was 100% Holden Daly. He dominated again tonight. Daly could do literally everything for the Wildcats. He's a powerful runner that always racks up yards after first contact and is a threat every time he touches the ball. He scored the first 2 touchdowns for the Wildcats and looked likely to score on almost every carry. And remember how I said he could do it all? He was the tackler on Waterford's early safety. He looked absolutely unstoppable tonight.
And I can't help but notice that 0 on the scoreboard for the Tornadoes. How about that Wildcat defense?
Nick, let me tell you, that Waterford defense looked like a pack of hungry dogs out there tonight, and they devoured the Tornadoes. Southern quarterback Josiah Smith barely had time to breathe on any given play, as the Wildcat front generated tons of pressure and tossed him around as the night progressed. They also came up with a safety and an interception that led to a touchdown.
On the other side, what happened to the Southern offense?
Nick, it's too many costly mistakes. They had limited momentum all game long and were playing from behind the chains on almost every drive. Penalties killed some promising drives, and a couple of drops and other mistakes didn't help either. Paired with the stellar play of the Water defense, all in all, it was a night to forget for the Southern offense. Waterford heads to Shenandoah next week, while Southern travels to Manchester to try and right the ship next Friday.
Thanks for the great report, Ethan. Granville traveled to Columbus to take on Bishop Watterson at Ohio Dominican University. This was a potential playoff preview between Division III Region 11 rivals.
Granville heading into the 6-1-4 to take on the Eagles of Bishop Watterson. We pick it up in the first quarter, and Carson Crouch is going to go deep, but he is intercepted by the Eagles defense. Bishop Watterson with the ball on the ensuing possession, and Ryan Rudzinski connects with his receiver, and he is gone. 7-0 Bishop Watterson early. Blue Aces now down 10, but Crouch is scrambling to his right, and he makes his way into the end zone to cut into the Eagles' lead. Granville with the ball again, and it's a handoff. Wait, it's a flea flicker. Crouch going deep, and he finds Caden McDermott to give Granville the lead, and they would not surrender it the rest of the night.
Blue Aces get a huge victory to remain unbeaten, scoring the final 32 points of the game to win 32-10 over Bishop Watterson. Seems like their week off last Friday night helped Granville in this one. Now this season has been a return of many things. Fans in the stadium, a 10-game regular season, and much more. But for the town of Millersport, the 2021 football season was the return of their program. Tim Hanna has more on the Lakers' return to the gridiron.
For one local high school, the wait to play football is finally over. The Millersport Lakers are back playing 11-man football for the first time since 2017. Senior running back Mason Reynolds surveyed the halls of his school to encourage classmates to join him on the team.
I went around with a list on how to get kids to play football, and Trevor was actually one of the first kids who signed up to play. And it's just great to have the team back.
After an 0-3 start to the season, the Lakers got their first victory since the return of the program. Coach Jack Trenish is proud of what his team achieved, but wants them to remain focused.
I think we had a little bit of a peak last week, so we have to be careful that we don't dwell on that success, the past success. Keep doing what we do. Got to keep kids healthy. Got to keep them out of COVID protocol and keep the grades up, which we did earlier. That's why some of us we're not out here. But just keep doing what we do. Install the basics and try to learn a little bit more each week.
For many players on the team, this is their first experience playing football, and Coach Trenish is impressed with the patience his team has shown learning the game.
I think they wanted to go faster at times, but they've stuck with the basics and doing the things you have to do to play decent football.
Getting the head coaching job at his alma mater was a special moment for Coach Trenish. He is excited to continue building relationships with his players.
It meant everything to me. This is kind of my grand finale, my apex, if you will. I love the small school setting, the relationships you can build with the kids.
For Gridiron Glory, I'm Tim Hanna in Millersport.
And I'm now joined by Tim, who was at the game tonight for Federal Hocking against Millersport. What happened tonight?
Nick, both teams came ready to play, and they didn't waste any time. Let's hop right in. Fed Hawks' Tyler Rogers takes out the opening kickoff, but the ball is punched out by Tyler Hall. Just 2 plays later, Millersport's quarterback Tyler Johnson loses the snap, and Fed Hawk is able to recover. Next Middleport possession, Mason Reynolds takes the inside handoff and reaches into the end zone to give his team the 6-0 lead. Jump ahead late first quarter, and Fed Hawk is driving. Tyler Rogers unloads and AJ Daniels to tie the game up at 6 apiece. Next Lantern possession, Rogers passes the ball, but it is intercepted by Cody Blosser, setting up the Lakers in excellent field position. Jumping ahead mid-second quarter, Fed Hawk is driving, and Rogers' pass is intercepted again. This time, he takes it all the way home. 29-14 Millersport. The final second of the half, Fed Hawk is in the red zone, but is unable to get out of bounds to stop the clock. Millersport would hold out to win 45-38.
Yeah, that sounds like this was a back-and-forth battle all night.
Both teams are very evenly matched and really battled it out on both sides of the ball all night long. For Millersport, it was the defense that came up big. Including 2 interceptions, the Millersport defenders were all over the Lancer backfield.
Who were the standout players for Millersport tonight?
Nick, the one player that stands out for me is wide receiver Tony Smith. He played an excellent game tonight. He gets his first touchdown here, starting as the single back, bouncing it out to the outside, shakes off the defender, and then he's off to the races. Mid-second quarter, he goes and gets his number called again. Takes it to the outside, hands off a big stiff arm, takes it into the end zone once again.
How was Federal Hocking able to move the ball on offense?
It wasn't all bad for Fed Hawk on offense. Despite throwing 2 interceptions, quarterback Tyler Rogers was able to move the offense down the field with a steady balance of run and pass. Running back Ethan McCoon was also a huge part of the offense tonight. Rogers was also able to get it done outside of the pocket as well, accounting for multiple big plays on the ground throughout the game. Between Rogers and McCoon, the Lancers have 2 players that can hurt you with their legs. If this game wasn't exciting enough for you, then you're in luck. These 2 teams will face off again on October 16th.
Sounds like we could have another exciting contest on our hands when they meet again. Thanks for the great work, Tim. Moving to the TVC Ohio, where the Athens Bulldogs played host to Meigs and their explosive offense. Here's how it went down in the Plains.
It's homecoming for Athens, but Meigs will start off on offense. Coulter Cleland hits his receiver in the flat and helps move their offense to the red zone. Cleland and the Marauders still moving the ball, and he's going to take it himself to the end zone to give the Marauders an early 7-0 lead. Bulldogs on offense now, and it's Landon Wheatley going deep, and Levi Neal is on the receiving end of that touchdown pass. 7-6 Meigs after the missed extra point. Meigs facing a 4th down, and they'll run a fake punt to move the sticks for a 1st down. Bulldogs now up 21-14, and Wheatley is looking for Derek Welsh, and they will connect for a Bulldogs touchdown.
Bulldogs get a key conference victory to get back on track. Athens take this one 49-35 in a shootout at Joe Burrow Stadium. Staying in the TVC Ohio, the city of MacArthur saw a tough defense take on a strong running back. Reporter Jack Demler was there to witness the battle between Vinton County and Warren.
Nick, you said it, my man. This game featured the Vinton County defense with a solid secondary take on an absolute workhorse in the backfield for the Warriors. The Vikings coming out in support of breast cancer awareness, sporting that pink. And on the first drive of the game, Braylon Dameron is going to call it himself, finding a hole, and he's going to take it down the near sideline. And mama, there goes that man, 32 yards to the crib. The missed PAT would keep the Vikings lead 6-0. Jump to the second quarter, Trent Taylor would pitch it to the outside, where Jason Williams would take it in from 11 yards out and stiff-arm the defender on the way to give the Warriors a 7-6 lead. Third quarter, and Williams would add another tutty to his stat line, this one from 3 yards out, Warriors up 14-6. Vikings charging back to keep their hopes alive in the fourth quarter as Zane Carr punches it into the end zone. However, the two-point conversion attempt would fall just short. Warriors staring victory in the face, but would say, you know what, just for safe measure, let's add another. Williams with his 3rd touchdown of the game, this one from 33 yards out, and look at that extra effort on the reach. Warriors take this one 28-12.
So Vinton County saw a little more points put up against them than they're used to. What happened to their defense tonight?
Well, Nick, while they did put up 28 points, they were still able to force some turnovers. As here, Trent Taylor runs the play action, and Dawson Brown would get the interception off the deflection. And later in the game, Taylor would run the run-pass option, but he is picked off a second time after the drop pass.
And how was Warren's defense able to match the aggressiveness of the Viking D?
Well, Nick, that's not an easy task to do, but the Warriors did this in 2 ways. Defensively, the Warriors were able to tally 2 turnovers of their own. Warren stripped the ball and was able to fall on the fumble to take possession. And towards the end of the third quarter, Dameron was going to be forced towards his right, and he would go for that home run ball, which would be picked off in the end zone by Landon Fairbanks.
And what about the offense? How are they able to slow down the Vikings?
Well, Nick, the Warriors' offense was quite literally carried by their workhorse, Jason Williams. Williams ended the night scoring all 4 touchdowns for Warren while tallying 261 total yards on 26 carries. That man was averaging a 1st down a carry. If that doesn't scream Player of the Year candidate to you, I don't know what will, Nick.
Wow, it sounds like Williams was the Vikings' kryptonite tonight.
Oh, absolutely. For as good as the pass defense is for the Vinton County Vikings, their run defense was definitely exposed tonight.
Thanks, Jack. As we move to our student section, it's not even March, but there's about to be some madness. 64 teams in our coverage area will be put into a bracket to see who has the best student section in the 740. If you think you have the best student section, make your voice be heard. All the madness is starting Sunday, so be sure to check our Twitter at Gridiron Glory for all the updates to come. We went to Dresden, Ohio for the game of the week for an intense matchup between 2 teams with only 1 loss. Here's the lead up to Tri-Valley and Philo. And reporter Alex Porter talked to Tri-Valley head coach Cam West ahead of the Scotties' huge contest with the Electrics. Here's what West had to say prior to the game.
Ourselves in a position to play meaningful football late in the season. I mean, it's week 7. And I told our kids, some teams around the state at this point in the season, all their goals are kind of gone. They've lost some games, but we're in a good spot because we're playing meaningful football late in the season. Philo is a different animal, though. I mean, you don't want to be down against Philo because they can run the ball so well. Offensively, obviously, our quarterback's got to play well. When he plays really well, we tend to play well, and I'm sure that's the same way with a lot of teams around the state. But our quarterback's got to play well. We got to catch the ball at receiver. Defensively, I think, is where it's most important. We've got to play really well defensively.
And now heading over to Dresden, where reporter Alex Porter got to catch up on the top matchup in the MVL this season between the Philo Electrics and the Tri-Valley Scotties.
Nick, I was privileged to watch 2 MVL powerhouses between Tri-Valley and Philo tonight. Both teams were 5-1 coming to this game, so I knew it was going to be a battle. In Dresden for a marquee matchup in week 7 and on senior night. It was Electrics versus Scotties. Let's get rolling to the highlights. After Tri-Valley scored on a 71-yard touchdown pass, they got the ball back again and ran it to the house. Jalen Goins-Chandler gets the pick 6 to put the Scotties up 14-0 early. But Philo isn't going down easily. They drive down the field and get their first score from Carter McCutcheon. After forcing a Tri-Valley punt, the Electrics come back again. Owen Smith jumps over the pile to tie the game at 14, but then everything would change. Fast forward to 20 seconds left before the half, the Scotties would run their version of the Philly special. Jalen Goins-Chandler gets the toss from Drew Burkhart, and he finds Alex Williams in the end zone. Scotties would go up 31-14 at the half. Then to start off the third quarter, the Scotties again. Burkhart with a Tebow-esque jump pass to Max Lyle, and it would be all but over. Tri-Valley runs away with it, 45-20 over Philo.
And what an outcome to that game. Sounds like you really got a taste of the top teams in the NVL.
Oh, I sure did, Nick. And despite the outcome, I was impressed with both teams tonight.
Yeah, so let's talk about Tri-Valley. How are they able to get up so big and maintain that lead?
For the Scotties, they were hitting on all cylinders. I'm talking defense, I'm talking special teams, offense, the coaching. I mean everyone. They got off to a fast start, and their defense backed it up, even more so in the second half. I talked with Scotties head coach Cam West earlier in the week, as you mentioned, and he told me one of their biggest priorities for his team was to play solid defense, tackle, and to maintain Electric's quarterback Owen Smith. Well, as you could tell, they smashed that goal. Just an overall impressive win for Tri-Valley, which will give them the edge for the MVL crown and their game against Riverview next week.
I can echo what you said about that defense, Alex. I was there for a bit of that first quarter, and I was impressed with what I saw. Now, talking about Philo, what can they take away from this tough loss?
First off, it's only their second loss of the season, so if they had to take a loss at some point, now is the time, especially against the tough competition, in the Scotties. And might I add, watching Owen Smith play was insane. He has a knack for making something out of nothing, using his mobility, and he has a solid arm too. It's important that they keep their heads up high because there's still a lot of football to play.
Yeah, like you said, Alex, there's no time to put their heads down now. Thanks for the great work. Get back to Athens safe. Well, the fans predicted the outcome of this one as 58% of y'all chose Tri-Valley. Now, moving to our last game, a whopping 80% of y'all thought Teays Valley would come out on top. Well, let's find out if you guys were right. I am now joined by Brian Kerp, who was at that game. Brian, one of the several teams in the 7-4-0 still undefeated entering tonight's game. Now, what did the Tigers give Teays Valley any trouble tonight?
Yeah, Circleville was actually trying to end a 4-game skid of itself against undefeated Teays Valley, and for the Tigers, things didn't get off to too bad of a start. It was a perfect October night in Circleville, the Tigers coming out and looking to pull off a major upset in the Mid-State League. Teays Valley got on the board first with a touchdown, but on Circleville's first play of scrimmage, Scott Motes keeps it, runs it, and he is going to score for the Tigers. 62 yards to the house for Motes. That evens things up at 7. The Tigers added a score to go up 14-7 after 1. Then they start to pull away in the second. Camden McDaniel takes the handoff, makes a few guys miss, and he finds pay dirt for his second score of the night, 21-7 Teays Valley. Now under 2 minutes left in the half, it's McDaniel. He's going to get the rock again, and he will not go down until he is over that goal line, and he's got the trifecta. 28-7 Vikings, and they force a quick 3-and-out, so they get a chance to get more points, and all you need is love. Tyler Love airs one deep and connects with Landon Thompson for a 45-yard strike just before the half. That's Love's second TD pass of the evening, and this one was all Vikings pretty much the rest of the way. Teays Valley rolls on to a 7-0 record with a 49-21 victory over Circleville.
Another statement win for the Vikings tonight. What were the keys to the Vikings' success?
Yeah, Nick, one of the big things Teays Valley has favored is its ground attack all season long, and tonight was no different for the Vikings. And one of the big features was that guy right there. That is Camden McDaniel. Wow, did I forget that name? Last week against Hamilton Township, McDaniel ran for 142 yards with 4 touchdowns, and McDaniel had himself another solid evening in Circleville tonight. He scored those 3 touchdowns and had 74 yards on the evening and 13 touches.
Now the Vikings had 236 yards rushing in this one. McDaniel was not the only one getting handoffs.
No, he wasn't. In fact, Teays Valley did have someone else that went over the century mark in rushing. Landon Thompson only had 4 carries on the night, but rushed for a $114 for the Vikings. He also had 137 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. Peyton Weiler also got significant carries on the night, and Tyler Love kept it for himself a few times for a solid 59 yards.
And speaking of Love, he had quite an impressive night throwing the ball as well.
Oh yes, no doubt. Love only threw the ball 6 times, but he completed all 6 of his passes for 210 yards. That's right, 6 pass completions for 210 yards, and 3 of them were for touchdowns. I'd really love to see what his quarterback rating was after that performance.
Now over on Circleville, the Tigers QB had a pretty good night on the ground as well.
Oh yeah, Scott Mote struggled passing the ball this evening, but ran for 141 yards and 2 touchdowns. Unfortunately for Circleville, it will have to wait until next week to try and snap that losing skid. And as for Teays Valley, the Vikings have some pretty challenging matchups ahead of them the next 3 weekends, so we'll have to see if they stay unbeaten.
Yes, definitely. They face Amanda Clear Creek next week. Then we could be in for a clash of unbeatens in 2 weeks as the Vikings visit Bloom Carroll. Thanks as always for the good work, Brian. What a night for Southeast Ohio football. Lots of games that will play a crucial role in conference titles and playoff races that went down tonight. We caught even more games that we weren't able to break down on the show, and now we're going to start in the TVC Ohio. Athens gets their second victory of the season with a 49-35 victory over Meigs. The TVC Ohio is still anybody's to claim with just 3 weeks left in the regular season. Next up, let's look at Granville. They go up to Columbus and pick up a big victory in the 7-4-0 after falling behind 10-0. The Blue Aces scored the final 32 points of the game. They will wrap up the regular season with 3 Licking County rivals. Now, finally, Zane Trace came out on top over Unioto in a battle for the Chillicothe. The Pioneers are now sitting at 5-2 and are positioning themselves for a nice playoff run. It will be interesting to see how Division 5 Region 19 shakes up. Lots of talented teams from Southeast Ohio in that region. Well, that's all we got for y'all this week. Look forward to next week's game of the week between Wheelersburg and Waverly. Now, if you can't possibly wait until next Friday, feel free to follow our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok for all the football action. We'll see you next week because there's nothing better than Friday night and Gridiron Glory.
Support comes from Ohio Health O'Bleness Hospital's sports medicine experts, helping youth athletes and active adults recover from injury to reach goals and peak performance. More at ohiohealth.com/sportsmedicine.
Additional support from Donato's Pizza, featuring pizza, subs, salads, and catering from their Athens location at 688 East State Street.